In this video, I'm gonna walk you through how to create this backpack. This pattern is called June backpack and it's available in my Etsy store. The back features a front zipper pocket, a back zipper pocket for any items that you want to keep secure but easily accessible. It has a front closure. Inside, it's lined with waterproof canvas and it has 3 slip pockets. This packet can be customized, so you can have 2 or just 1 large packet, whatever suits your needs. This bag doesn't require any special hardware. Anything that is needed to complete this project you should have on hand if you are even a beginner bag maker. If you would like to review the full supply list, you can visit the Etsy listing and everything is posted there. If you like my tutorials and you would like me to create more, please make sure to subscribe to my channel and give the video a like. Also, if you would like to purchase this pattern at a discount, please make sure to join my Facebook group. The link to the Facebook group is in the description box below. This pattern will be available at a discount 1 week from the premiere of this video. If you would like to see me creating this red version of the backpack, please keep watching. Let's get started. The pattern will come with this printable pattern piece that covers your outer panels and your main lining panels. It has additional instructions on the pattern itself, how to trace and where to trace all the additional marks on your pattern. So that's going to be also included in the written instructions when you purchase the pattern. Based on this pattern piece and on the cut list that will be included in the instructions, you will cut all your pieces. This set is for my accent front pocket. This is the back zipper pocket, 2 outer panels cut out of vinyl, the lining panels cut out of waterproof canvas, my slip pocket for my inside of the bag, and my bottom panel for the outside of my bag. Also, you would need some hardware, so I'm gonna be using some rivets, and 8 to 10 millimeters rivets are just perfect. Then you're gonna need 1-inch sliding adjusters, 3 D-rings, or you can use square rings. Whatever you have, it will work, and 2 zipper pulls, and also webbing tape. I'm using polyester webbing tape that is 1 inch in width, because that matches my hardware. And also you will need thread. I'm using a polyester thread. It's a Gutermann Mara 70. We're gonna start our project with putting our front pocket unit together. So you're gonna grab your accent panel for your front of the pocket, 2 linings and your zipper. I'm using vinyl as my accent fabric for the pocket. The instructions in the pattern will include instructions to how to use quilting cotton on canvas material that needs to be interfaced. So you can use canvas or quilting cotton, or you can follow this tutorial to use a vinyl panel. So first of all, we have to get our accent panel. You're gonna take your zipper, and if you watch some of my videos, you know I like to work with a zipper that doesn't have a pull on, but if that's something that makes you uncomfortable, just make sure your pull is inserted on your zipper tape, and it should be closing from the right to the left. So when your zipper is closed, the pull should be on the left side. So you take your accent panel and your zipper tape and you put them right sides together along the longer edge of the panel. Now that you have your zipper attached, you can base it in place. If you are comfortable installing zippers and you have some experience doing so, you can just attach the lining panel on top of the zipper tape and connect those three pieces with one seam. So that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna take the smaller lining panel and I'm gonna make sure that the lining and the accent fabrics are right sides together, and I'm gonna attach the lining panel along the zipper tape. Now that you have your unit connected like that, you're gonna take it to the machine and you're gonna sew along the top edge with the 1/4 of an inch seam allowance and 2.5 stitch length. When you have the zipper attached to your lining and to your front accent fabric, you're gonna open the unit, and if you're using a canvas or quilting cotton, you can press it with the iron. I obviously cannot because I'm using vinyl, so I'm just gonna press it with my fingers and take it to the machine and top stitch along the edge with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. My panel is now top stitched. You can barely see it because it came out on the red line with the red thread, so it's not very visible, but it does its job. So now to complete our pocket unit, we're gonna attach the second lining panel. You're gonna place it on your table right side up. Then you're gonna place your pocket unit on top of it. It should cover it completely, and you want to make sure that your zipper tape will align with the top of your lining. You're gonna secure that in place. When you have this secure, and make sure that your both linings are right sides together, you're gonna take it to the machine and base the zipper tape onto the lining with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now that we have our pocket unit prepped, we have to work on our front outer panel. You're gonna use the pattern piece to trace the shape of your front accent pocket onto the wrong side of your front outer panel. So I'm gonna put this away. So when you have the shape traced, you're gonna cut out inside of the pocket around 1/2 inch away of the mark. After you have the shape cut out, we're gonna snip all the corners up to the marked outline. Now we're gonna place double-sided tape along our shape around 1/4 of an inch away from the marked lines. When you have the tape placed all around, you're gonna start folding the raw edges inside the project, so the vinyl is wrong sides together to create a nice finish outline of the pocket on the right side. After you have all 5 pieces folded, you should inspect the fold from the right side, making sure it is nice and clean and straight, and make any needed adjustments. Like right here, I need to fold a little bit deeper, so make sure you do that. Inspect all your folds, making sure they are up to your satisfaction. So now that I'm happy with how it looks from the right side, I'm gonna move on to attaching our pocket unit inside our opening. So once again, I'm gonna flip it wrong side up. Gonna take my pocket unit and make sure I'm gonna insert the zipper pull on my zipper tape. So my zipper pull is on. I'm gonna yet again use double-sided tape. So you're gonna place the double-sided tape again 1/4 of an inch away from the fold. So we're not gonna be sewing through the double-sided tape because sometimes it can make our needle sticky, so you wanna avoid that. Now that we have our double-sided tape placed, we're gonna work on centering the pocket unit inside the opening. So I'm gonna start with just the top double-sided tape strip. After removing the backing on the strip on the top of my pocket, I'm gonna place my pocket unit right side up on my table and center the zipper tape inside the opening. So you want to make sure that you have equal overhang on each side of the pocket and that the zipper looks centered. And now I'm happy with the placement. So I'm gonna move on to attaching the pocket all around the opening. Now that my pocket is secured with the double-sided tape inside of my opening, we're gonna sew the pocket in. And here you have two options. So you can sew the pocket or top stitch around the opening, having all the layers behind, looking exactly how the pocket will be when it's gonna be closed. That's gonna make your pocket a little smaller. So what I wanna do, I'm gonna open the lining when I'm sewing. I'm gonna sew in the pocket following the opening on the right side, and then I'm gonna complete the lining. This way I'm gonna achieve a bigger pocket on the front, but you can just go ahead and sew your pocket on with all the layers placed behind the opening. You will just end up with a smaller pocket. Take it to the machine and top stitch along the opening with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Now that my pocket unit is sewn into my bag, and I decided to do the open version because I want the pocket to be larger, so I did that, and I also installed my back tag. Just when you gonna install your back tag, make sure it's not gonna be too high because there's gonna be the back closure around here. So you want to make sure that, you know, if you are advertising your back your handmade product, that the tag will be visible. We're gonna now work to complete our pocket. You want to pull the lining. Mine is sticking a little bit to my double-sided tape. It's not a problem. So you're gonna pull the second lining panel down, and you're gonna clip it along the 3 open edges. Now that you have your lining panel prepped to be closed, you're gonna take it to the machine and sew along those 3 open edges with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance and 2.5 stitch length, making sure your outer panel stays out of the way. So the best way is to flip it over and sew from the right side, making sure you're keeping your eye on your outer panel. The front pocket is now completed. The lining, the back lining is now attached to our pocket, and it creates a larger pocket. I trimmed my seam allowance on the bottom a little bit. You can do it, or it's totally optional. Now we're gonna work on completing our front closure for our back. What you want to do, you want to find the middle point of your pocket. So, and mark that with the erasable marker. At this point, you want to mark 3/4 of an inch above the pocket seam, and using the middle point, you want to create a 1 inch mark above your pocket. You're gonna have a 1 inch mark in the middle of your front pocket, 3/4 of an inch above the pocket itself. After you created your mark on the front panel, you're gonna cut a slit. After your slit is done, just erase the markings because you don't want that to be showing after your back is completed. And we're gonna move on to construct our front closure. To do that, you're gonna take your webbing tape, cut to size for the front closure. So you're gonna have your webbing tape for the front closure. You wanna make sure that both ends of the webbing tape are melted, so they're not gonna fray. And you're gonna grab one of the sliding adjusters, but just put it aside for now. First, we're gonna slip the one end of the webbing tape inside our slit. So when the tape is slipped into the cut opening, you're gonna take this to the machine, and you're gonna top stitch on the webbing, catching this upper part of your vinyl in a seam. So you're gonna sew just above the slit with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance from the slit with a 2.5 stitch length. When your seam is completed, you're gonna take your sliding adjuster and you're gonna thread the open end of the webbing tape around the middle bar. When you have that done, you're gonna insert the open end of the webbing through the slit. And you're gonna pull the webbing tape in. So you wanna create around 1/2 inch loop on the front to hold your sliding adjuster in place. When you have that done, you're gonna go back to the machine and you're gonna sew through the vinyl and both ends of the webbing tape just below the slit. So I recommend using a zipper foot so you can get really close to the slit. And sew with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 2.5 stitch length. After that's done, to enforce your closure, you can install a rivet in the middle of your webbing tape. Let's do that. Your front panel is now completed, so we can move on working on the back of the bag. The first step is to prep our lining for our back zipper pocket. So you're gonna grab your 2 lining pieces. They're the same size, so it doesn't matter which one. You're gonna take the lining panel and place it right side up on the table and clip the zipper along the top edge, making sure that the zipper is teeth side up. Now you're gonna open that unit and take the second lining panel and affix the other open edge of the zipper to the top edge of the lining. Where you created pocket lining that will have the zipper right side up and the lining wrong side up, you want to make sure that your inside of the pocket looks nice and clean, because that's what's going to be visible when you open the pocket. So when you have that prepped, take it to the machine and baste along those two zipper edges with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 2.5 stitch length. After you baste your lining to your zipper tape, you're gonna insert the zipper pull on your zipper tape. And since those two lining panels are exactly the same, so you can just choose any side. So your pocket panel is prepped. Now we're gonna work on the outer back panel of our backpack. So you're gonna use the pattern piece to mark your back zipper pocket opening, and those three marks to attach your back handle and the top D-ring tab. When you have them marked, you're gonna use a craft knife to cut the openings. In the zipper pocket, you're gonna cut opening all around to make sure we have edges to fold our raw edges of the vinyl inside the opening to create a nice clean zipper opening for our back pocket. You're gonna take double-sided tape and place strips of the double-sided tape around the zipper opening. As you can see, yet again, I place my double-sided tape around 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch away from my drawn opening. I don't want my needle to go through the tape when I'm sewing my pocket on. So when you have that prepped, you're gonna start folding the cut edges of the vinyl to create a zipper opening with a nice clean edge. When you have your opening folded, you can inspect it from the right side to make sure it looks nice and up to your satisfaction. And after you have that done, we're gonna prep our pocket panel to be attached inside the opening. So yet again, you're gonna put double-sided tape, this time along the zipper tape edges on both sides. Now make sure you have your pocket in a way you would like it to close. This is a back pocket, so I would like it to be closing when I'm pulling the zipper towards the right side. So I'm gonna have my pocket this way. I'm gonna remove the backing of the top double-sided tape and center the zipper inside my zipper opening. I want around an inch overhang on each short edge of the zipper opening. When you have the top edge attached, you can move on to the bottom edge. Now that your zipper lining unit is attached to the opening in the outer panel, take it to the machine and top stitch around the opening with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Make sure your panels, your lining panels, remain open. You don't want to be sewing through the upper panel. That's gonna just close your pocket opening. Now that your zipper pocket is sewn in to your outer panel, we're gonna close up all our lining. So you're gonna align those two lining pieces, trim the longer bottom piece so it's the same size. Now we're gonna clip the sides and the bottom of our lining panels together. And when you have that prep, you're gonna take it to the machine and you're gonna sew along those 3 open edges with the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance and 2.5 stitch length, making sure your outer panel is out of the way of the seam. So you're gonna start here, continue your seam all around, making sure you are not sewing your outer panel in. Zipper back pocket, it's completed. Also, because the vinyl I'm using for my bag, it's pretty flimsy, I decided to add some scrap of Decovil Light to enforce my openings for the D-ring, the tab, and for my handle. This is something that you can consider doing if you feel like your vinyl it's not strong enough to sustain the wear and tear of the backpack. So now that we have the pocket finished, we prepped our openings in the back panel, we're gonna move on to creating our middle D-ring tab and the handle. So you're gonna take the webbing tape, cut to size for those 2 items. And first we're gonna work on our handle. So you're gonna mark 2 inches away from each side of the short edge. And you're gonna fold the tape and secure the fold between those two 2-inch marks. When you have that prepped, you're gonna take it to the machine and top stitch between those 2 marks with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. After the back handle is completed, now we're gonna attach it to the outer back panel along with the D-ring tab. So you wanna start with the middle D-ring tab, just insert one end of the webbing tape inside the middle slit, and making sure that the open edges of the handles are facing up, insert the ends inside the side slits. Flip it over to make sure you have around 3/4 of an inch of a webbing tape inside of your slits. You wanna then inspect it from the right side, make sure that your handle looks straight, make any adjustments if needed. So I think my tape looks now nice and straight. I'm gonna now take it to the machine, and on the handle ends I'm gonna sew all around the opening. So I'm gonna start on the top, sew through the webbing tape and the upper part of the vinyl, come back 1 stitch length, and it's gonna be 3.5 millimeters, because that's the stitch length I'm gonna be using sewing the webbing in. So I'm gonna come back and sew on the other side of the slit, making sure that both sides of the vinyl on the both sides of the slit are cut in the seam, and the webbing is connecting the opening. So I'm gonna repeat that on the other side of the handle. So I'm gonna sew all around the opening, but when it comes to the middle D-ring tab, I'm gonna sew only above the slit. So make sure you're not gonna sew all around, because we have to put the other end of the webbing inside after we attach our D-ring or square ring onto the tape. Now that we have our handle attached, it's sewn in all around the opening, and then we stitched up above the slit on the D-ring tab, and we're gonna finishing up attaching our D-ring. So I decided to use a square ring, but a regular D-ring is fine. So just thread the hardware onto your tab and place the other end of the tape inside the slit. After you inserted the other end of the webbing tape inside the slit, you should have around half an inch loop left outside your panel. You want to make sure that the tape looks good on the inside. And now you're gonna take it to the machine, and you're gonna sew on the other side of the slip. You're gonna sew through the 2 layers of the webbing tape and the vinyl. So top stitch 1/8 of an inch away from the slit with the 3.5 stitch length. So now the square ring or D-ring tab, it's attached. I created the seam above the slit, and also to enforce the handle and the tab, I added rivets. Now we're gonna move on to creating our bottom of our bag. So to do that, first we're gonna place our 2 outer panels together and clip them along the bottom edge. When you have those 2 panels clipped, you're gonna take it to the machine and sew along the bottom edge only with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance and 2.5 stitch length. When that's done, you're gonna open your seam like so, and you on the right side of the project, you're gonna top stitch along the seam on both sides to keep the seam allowance open. I sewn the outer panels, bottom seams together, and I opened the seam and I top stitch it to keep it open. Now I'm gonna move on to create the bottom panel. You're gonna have the bottom panel cut to size per the cut list, and using double-sided tape, we're gonna fold the long open edges. So place a strip of double-sided tape on along the long edges of the panel. When you have that done, you're gonna fold both long edges, wrong sides together, half an inch inside. So when you have that prepped, you're gonna take your D-ring tabs and the D-rings, thread 1 D-ring on each tab, You can secure that with a clip. So when you have your D-ring tabs prepped, you're gonna flip your panel wrong side up, and you're gonna place each D-ring an inch away from the short edge, creating a 1/2 inch loop. And do the same on the other side. When you have your panel prepped like this, you're gonna again take double-sided tape and place a couple strips on the wrong side of the panel. Remove the backing. Take your outer panel and keeping the front and back of the back in mind, because you want to make sure when you attach the bottom panel to the back, the D-ring tabs are on the back side of your backpack. So you're gonna center the prepped panel on the bottom of your bag. Making sure that the D-rings are on the back side of your bag, because obviously that's where your strap gonna go, so you want to make sure that you are touching the panel with the D-ring tabs towards the back of the bag. When you have this placed, you can also secure the short edges with clips. You're gonna take this to the machine and you're gonna top stitch along those two edges with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Then, if you like, you can enforce the D-rings with rivets. So you can install rivets in the bottom of the bag that will give the tabs a little more strength. That's why I like to leave a good amount of webbing inside of the panel. So first of all, it's not gonna fray and be pulled when I'm using my bag. And the second reason is so I can install a rivet to enforce my D-ring tabs. Our bottom panel is completed. I have my D-rings towards the back of my bag, so I did it correctly. And I installed 2 rivets just to give the tabs a little more strength. So now, to finish up our outer panel, we need to sew our sides together. So clip the sides of the outer panels, right sides together. And take it to the machine and sew along those 2 side edges with the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance and 2.5 stitch length. Now that our side seams are done, we're gonna box our corners. So just clip the open edges of the bottom together. And when you have that prepped, take it to the machine and sew along those openings with the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance and 2.5 stitch length. You can double the seam. That means you're just gonna run 2 seam lines really close to each other to enforce the boxing seam. So my corners are now boxed. I can turn the project right side out to inspect it. Here's the outer of my bag. I think it's coming along pretty cute, so I'm pretty happy with that. Now I can move on to work on the lining. you're gonna have two main lining pieces and a panel for a slip pocket. In the pattern itself, the slip pocket is made out of cotton or canvas fabric. This bag, I want to make the pocket out of waterproof canvas, and because waterproof canvas doesn't fray, I don't have to double the fabric. I can just top stitch the edges to just give it a nicer look. So that's what I'm gonna do with my pocket. So we're gonna start with prepping our slip pocket. So I'm gonna fold the bottom edge of the pocket half an inch in to create a nice finished look on the right side when I attach it to the lining. So that's gonna be the bottom of my pocket. On the top, I wanna make it even more pretty, so I'm gonna do a double fold. So now I have my pocket prepped. Waterproof canvas can be ironed, so you can take it to the ironing board and iron what we just created. Just make sure you're ironing from the right side of the fabric, which is the textured side. Don't iron from the wrong side, because you're gonna damage your iron and take off the rubbery membrane on the back of the fabric. So I iron my top and the bottom of my pocket, and now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take it to the machine and I'm gonna top stitch along the top edge, the one that was double folded. I'm gonna give it a 2 line of top stitching on the top. I'm not gonna sew the bottom. The bottom we're gonna sew when we're gonna attach it to the lining panel. Now that your pocket is prepped, I also mark lines where I want to split my pocket into 3 smaller pockets. You can just split it equally in 3, or you can make 2 slip pockets inside, just splitting the pocket in half. So when you have your pocket ready and top stitched, you should attach it to one of the lining panels. So the lining panel is right sides together, and I'm gonna place my pocket following the measurements provided in the pattern on top of my lining panel. Secure that with pins. When you have that done, you're gonna take your panel to the machine, and you're gonna base along the sides and top stitch along the bottom seam. You can then split the pocket with a single seam going from the bottom to the top, or you can do a double seam going up, coming back 1 stitch length, making sure you back stitch on the top of the pocket and come back down to create a double seam to split the pockets into 3 or 2. My slip pocket is completed, so I split it in 3. I have 3 slip pockets on the back of my lining. Now we're gonna work on finishing up our lining. So you're gonna align both lining panels right sides together and clip along the side edges and the bottom. When you have the panel clipped all around, we want to make sure that we're gonna leave an opening to turn our project right side out. So using pins, mark an opening on the bottom of the lining. When you have the unit prepped like that, take it to the machine and sew along the sides and the bottom, leaving that space unsewn with the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance and 2.5 stitch length. After you sewn your sides and your bottom, just a reminder to make sure that you backstitch where the birding hole is. So make sure you backstitch so the seam won't fall apart when we turn our project right side out. When you have those seams completed, we're gonna now box our corners. When you have that prepped, take it to the machine and sew the openings with the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance and 2.5 stitch length. Now that we have our lining ready to go, we're gonna turn it right side out. So the last thing to do before we're gonna put our project together, the lining and the outer, is to attach our top part of the back closure. So you want to take your you're gonna take your outer panel and the piece of webbing that is cut to size per the cut list, and you're gonna attach it on the top of the back outer panel in the middle. So you want to make sure that your closure is in the middle of the back outer panel. When you have that attached, you're gonna base the webbing tape in place. After you have the top closure attached to your outer panel, you're gonna turn the outer panel wrong side out. And making sure your lining is right side out, you're gonna put the lining inside of your outer panel. You wanna make sure that the slip packets are on the back of the bag, so you make sure that you're gonna have both sides the same way. So I know that this is the back of my bag and this is slip packet, and I'm gonna place the lining inside of the bag this way. And, now that we have that done, we're gonna clip the top opening of the bag, the lining and the outer panel together, and just make sure that the right side of the lining is towards the right side of your outer fabric. Align the side seams first. And then clip all around the top. When you have that done, take it to the machine and sew all around the top opening with the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance and 2.5 stitch length. I sewn the top edge all around, so now I can turn my back right side out. Now that my lining is inside, and what I want to make sure that my lining is touching the bottom of my outer panel, that the lining is sitting on the table. The lining is shorter than the outside panel, so you want to make sure that you have the lining sitting on the bottom of your bag. You don't want to end up with the lining that it's just hanging in space. So this way we're gonna create a inch fold of the outer inside our bag, and that's what you want to have done. So when you are pretty confident that your lining is placed nice and snug inside of your bag and it's touching the bottom, you're gonna pull on the outer panel to create the 1 inch fold. Secure that with clips all around. Double check that your lining is nice and snug inside, and when you're happy with how the back is coming together, you're gonna take it to the machine and you're gonna top stitch along the opening on the vinyl all around. So you're gonna be top stitching with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Now the top stitching is completed. We're gonna now close our lining. So pull your lining out of the bag and fold the raw edges inside the opening. You can finger press it, secure that with clips. And take it to the machine and top stitch the opening with the 1/16 of an inch seam allowance and 2.5 stitch length. My lining is completed and I placed it back in my bag. So now we need to finish up our closure. You're gonna pull the webbing up and fold it upwards, and then you're gonna secure this placement with a rivet. Now that we secure the top closure webbing with the rivet, we're gonna find the perfect length for our closure. So you're gonna just thread the webbing tape through your adjuster the way you would close your bag. Gonna pull it so it folds where the D-ring is, which it's pretty perfect here. It's right on the end of the webbing. When you close your bag, you want to then figure out what do you think is the best length of your final closure. I usually like to leave it at 3 inches, so I'm gonna cut it under an angle from 3 inches to around 2.5 inches. After you cut your webbing, make sure to melt the freshly cut end so it won't fray. And now we can move on to our final step, which is attaching our straps. To complete our bag, we're gonna now work on the straps for the backpack. We will need the webbing tape cut to the size provided in the pattern, some rivets, and 2 sliding adjusters. So first we're gonna thread the webbing through the top ring. You want to have it equal, so just make sure your webbing is halfway through. through the top ring. Then you're gonna twist the tape so it leans towards each of the bottom D-rings. Then you're gonna insert a sliding adjuster on each end of the tape. When you have your sliding adjuster inserted this way and making all the time making sure that your tape is not twisted, we're gonna now thread the tape through the bottom D-rings. So you're gonna go from the bottom up to the top. When you have that done, then you're gonna take the open end of the tape and you're gonna thread the open end around the middle bar of the adjuster. Pull it so you have about 2 inches of tape pulled through the adjuster. Repeat that on the other side. So now, just to make sure that we did it right, you can grab the tape and make sure that your adjuster is sliding on the tape. That's the indication that we threaded everything correctly. So now it's our last step. You're gonna take the webbing tape, and I like to hide the raw edge, so I double fold it and place it together with this end, all the time making sure that it's sliding on my tape. That means I have it right. So you can secure that with clip and repeat the same thing on the other end of the tape. When you have that done, now you can all take it to the machine and sew this together, or you can use rivets to secure the end of the tape to create our loop. Now your strap is connected. We're gonna completely run it through the adjuster because we want to find the middle point of our webbing tape. This way we have the middle point of the webbing tape, and you again want to twist it in a way the straps are going, so the left strap towards the left and the right strap towards the right, and then secure this placement with one rivet in the middle. Now you have your back completed. the project is now completed. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you did, please make sure to subscribe to my channel and give the video a like. Also, if you would like to try making your own bag, the link to the pattern is in the description box below. Also, in the description box below you find a link to my Facebook group. You can join the Facebook group and have access to myself if you have any questions or concerns. Till the next time.